This episode of the QA is brought to you by Lucky Shot. It is the end of the month, which means it is time for the QA. My name is Dave Tim from Guns and Tactics. Thank you guys very much for spending a few minutes of your day checking out this episode. For those of you guys that are new here, this is the episode where at the end of every month, I answer your questions. You send me an email to the email address shown below, which is the QA at gunsandtactics.com. And then one lucky question asker wins a prize at the end, thanks to our sponsor, Lucky Shot. Now, real quick, this is going to be episode number 49, which means next month is, I believe, if my math is correct, the Nifty 50 episode, which means we do have some excellent giveaways. We are going to be doing a live QA event, which means we're going to be giving away prizes live in addition to the standard if you emailed in. But some of the prizes that I'm starting to get from my industry partners are pretty cool. Other prizes are going to be stuff that I've had for demo or review. So some of the stuff that you've seen in videos, I'm going to be able to give away thanks to those companies. So I'm pretty excited about some of the prizes. I really do think we're going to probably be over $1,000, and one prize in particular, uh, you may have recently seen, is worth almost over half that alone. So that's pretty cool. But that's going to be kind of a unique prize because not everyone's going to be able to use it. So I have to figure out how the rules are going to work with we giving away that part of it. But anyways, that being said, you know how to email. We do have 8+ questions. The reason why I say 8+ is, again, Kevin did email me with one, two, three, four, about 5 questions, but you only get one entry per episode. So that is how the rules work. So let's just get right rocking and rolling into it, and we'll kind of go from there. Last week we did that, or last month we did have some fun. So I always do enjoy that. We had a little pineapple taste test, and we got to have a little fun. Nothing like that planned today. And as you guys can see, I am not in the studio. I am on the road teaching another class, and it's just how it goes. So I want to make sure I can still make content for you guys. So sometimes I just make it on the road and kind of go from there. So real quick, comment cleanup before we get into the real questions. Robert, 95 grand. What lube solvent combo products are you using now? I'm still pretty much using Slip 2000. However, I am also using Bortec for precision rifle stuff. And CZ Junkie, like the QA, along with Mr. Pew Life stuff, good there. Bob, one of the best and funniest QAs, well, that's good. Pineapple Fanta is delicious. And yeah, got to find someone to trust do the weld, Rusty. I'm super swamped right now, but maybe. And Art, thank you very much for the support. I think you have a question on this month. And let's see here. I talked about hand fitting the officer makes sense, but seen a lot of messed up things. Yep, good deal. And Taylor wants to go hog hunting. So we'll go from there. All right, guys. First question is from Ryan. Thank you for your commitment to the learning firearms community. Oh man, that's an oldie. You're an old watcher. That's pretty cool. Anyways, you should try some Pineapple Fanta. What essential upgrades would you recommend for any AR? I did do a AR patrol rifle kind of setup video. I'll put a link to it up there, but that kind of has some of my configuration. I can certainly go into more details if you have specifics. However, I would recommend every gun has to have a good quality optic system, so a red dot backup sights, LPVO backup sights, something like that, a white light, and a sling. It needs to have all of those things for me to consider it, truly ready for either defense, patrol, whatever it might be. As far as parts, as long as it's a good quality rifle, I want it to run, I want it to be reliable, and then other parts that I might add on could be an ambi safety, an enhanced charging handle, maybe an enhanced bolt catch, bolt release. Those type of things I think are really handy. And of course, a free float rail so you can attach those accessories like your sling and light and grip, all good solid stuff to have. But if the internals are all reliable and run, you should be good to go. Your other question is for short builds in light of the current status, SBR or AR pistol. It's going to depend on your state, what you think the political climate is going to be a year, 2, 5 from now. AR pistols, you can obviously travel a little easier if this whole brace thing works out. SBR, yeah, you're registered and you have to pay that $200, but then it is what it is. It's an SBR, and you can do exactly with it what you want as far as configuration. You don't have to worry about grips and stuff. So I feel like we've talked about that before. Maybe I'll do another video on kind of pistol versus SBR, depending on how politics play out. So thank you very much, Ryan. All right, this is from Chris. Follow-up question on carriers promoted by Radian, Lantac, CMC, Sound Co. And he's talking about enhanced bolt carriers versus your standard ones. And I would also add JP in there. JP does make some really nice carriers that they offer enhanced as well. Is carrier tilt on the DI a myth? If so, would there be one advantage to using a full mass enhanced carrier like the ones mentioned rather than mil spec? And thank you for the QA. You're welcome. So I personally really like JP and CMC. The Lantac carriers I've seen are very nice as well. I have not personally had a Radian, and I have not personally seen a Silencer Co. Maybe there was one in the class, so I'm not going to speak on those two because I don't have a ton of experience. Lantac and the CMC, really nice carriers. JP makes really nice carriers. They have the variable mass system, and then obviously um, you're going to get better mass regulation with those. You're going to get much generally higher quality as far as precision machining versus some of the cheaper mil spec stuff that might be out there. And I use the term mil spec with air quotes. Is carrier tilt on the DI a myth? Mostly, it's generally something that you're going to see more in piston guns. However, there are still DI guns that will show can pin wear and things like that. Do you need one of these? No, but it certainly does make a difference. It's a little bit noticeable when you're shooting suppressed and a little nicer when you're trying to tune that gun. So it definitely can be worth it. If you have the money and you're okay with spending the money on a carrier, I wouldn't recommend it. Like I said, my guns going forward from JP have their enhanced carriers. Uh, I have one of the CMCs in a gun that's working good, actually the Sweet 16, and it's rock solid. So I wouldn't hesitate to look at a good quality carrier. All right, this one is from Bruce. I was wondering if you had a battery preference. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. So if you're talking about pistol red dots, generally it's going to be Duracell. If you're talking about other batteries, just a good quality battery. So if it's 18650s, which are what in weapon mounted lights, handheld lights, I'll recommend what the manufacturer recommends. So if you're going to be using a mod light, use theirs. A Surefire, use theirs. Things like that. And then if you're talking about like 123s and stuff like that, Duracell, Energizer, Streamlight, Surefire, some of the other good quality brands, Panasonic, are going to be just fine. But if it's for red dot optics, I generally run Duracell when I can. Obviously, I still have some Energizer batteries in the bag and the box and stuff like that, so I'll burn through those. But if it's a duty grade light, then I generally like Duracell. All right, this one is from Art. I knew you had a question in here, Art. I definitely agree that Fanta beats Warriors. Yes, absolutely. With the exception of those soda pops where people make their own. You know what? I haven't tried it. I do want to try it sometime, but that'd be cool. Anyways, here we go. My question is continues. We've seen a lot of firearms trend from the competition to our practical, tactical, if you will. What do you think is next? It seems like a lot of folks are focused on adding comps, including the micro market. I do think we are going to see more comps. That's kind of is something that trickled from the competition market. So we obviously have dots, we have comps, things like that. As far as what's next, honestly, I don't know because the competition market, that's pretty much where they're at. Maybe there's going to be larger guns that people are just going to start to feel more and more comfortable carrying full size guns versus little pocket guns. So that could be one thing. Also, I do think training is going to continue to evolve, but I do think we're going to start to see internal adjustments, such as enhanced triggers, become a little bit more prevalent too. And I think even give credit where credit is due. You have SIG coming out with like the 320 series, and some of their triggers out of the box are great. Walther triggers are great. HK triggers are great. So is that going to cause some of the other companies to try to have to catch up and maybe make some improved triggers? Yeah. I'm shocked that Glock does not have a flat face trigger of their own, like an OEM flat face trigger, for example. Just absolutely shocked that they don't have their own. Maybe it's coming soon. I don't know. But I do think some of that stuff is going to start to work its way in as well. So that's a good question. Let me think about that more. Maybe that would be its own video. And actually, one of the things that I did want to do is kind of take a match shooter, a really good match shooter, which I'm losing access to here because he's moving on to better opportunities. But I wanted to do kind of a lessons learned from a match shooter and how we can apply that to the practical side. So I still might try to do a video like that, but I was hoping to have a guest star. So yeah, great, absolutely great question. Before we get into the rest of our questions, let's give a shout out to Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot makes some really cool glassware and giftware for the firearms or shooting enthusiast in your life, or if you just want to get something for yourself. Hop on their webpage, you can check out all the cool stuff they make. Their glassware is completely safe, and it definitely is going to be a conversation piece. You can use the coupon code shown on your screen, save yourself a little bit of cash when you make your next order. Again, don't be afraid to buy something for yourself or someone special in your life, and a beverage does taste better when it's drank out of a Lucky Shot glassware. I wish I had mine. I need to get like a travel set so I can enjoy a pineapple Fanta if I can find it when I'm on the road. But thanks again to Lucky Shot for sponsoring this episode of the QA and providing the prize. I do appreciate it. This one is from Nick. Nick is finishing an 18-inch 6.5 Grendel build. Its main purpose is going to be for hunting. Should he go with a 1 to 8 LPVO or more magnification? Likely won't be past 600 yards. He likes the primary arms reticles, but would be open, likes to stay under 600 bucks. It's honestly going to depend how much stuff up close you're going to come in contact with, and if you think you're going to want more of that magnification. Now, I think a 1 to 8 would probably work just fine, or you could look at a 1 to 10, and the one for that price is going to be from Adaball. That's going to be around 600-ish bucks for the optic, and that 1 to 10 might give you a little bit more range as well. I'm actually going to be doing a 1 to 10 video coming up. I have the Vortex 1 to 10, I have the Adaball, and I've gotten a lot of questions on kind of a comparison because they're different beasts. Even though they're both 1 to 10, you have different price points, you have different performance points, and they feel different even though they're both 1 to 10 LPVO. So I'm going to be doing that video. It's probably going to be closer to fall, but I definitely want to kick that out because I know a lot of people have asked questions. Otherwise, if you looked at something with more magnification, obviously that would give you that advantage at distance, but then you lose some of that up close. So for example, if you know that you're going to be shooting in the brush or things like that, you're probably not going to need, a ton of magnification. Whereas if you think, well, you might be shooting that 400 to 600 yards more often, then little magnification might not be a bad thing. So something to consider. Just kind of have to depend. A 1 to 8, a 1 to 10 might serve you really, really well. And in fact, a friend of mine is talking about putting a 1 to 10 on one of his hunting rigs just to get that versatility of up close in the brush versus, increasing the magnification to get those longer shots. So yeah, great question on that. This next question is from Angel. Hello, recently bought an Anderson and saw a video of me demonstrating the difference between slings, which was my 1 point versus 2 point sling video, which you can check out up there. And he's wondering what brand. The single point sling was a Northeastern tactical bungee sling. It's a great single point sling if you're using that. The padded 2 point sling in that particular one was a VTAC. And I believe at the time it might have been a 511 branded product. I'm not sure, but it was the VTAC 2 point padded sling, which they are still in production. It's still a great sling. I run those all the time. I still buy them as I need. So VTAC for Viking Tactics. It's Kyle Lamb's design. Padded 2 point sling. You can find them all sorts of good dealers, but that's generally still kind of my sling of choice. Blue Force Gear makes a great sling. There are several others out there as well that I have not checked out all of them, but there are good quality 2 point padded slings. So I would definitely recommend that. But the one I was using was a Viking Tactics VTAC. This one is from David. Have you ever had a learning experience that drastically altered the way you train or think about how you prioritize gear selection? Every few years, it seems like I find something new that causes me to reconsider training points. Yes. One of the ones that I can remember very well in the past few years when I was training with Dave Spalding, who I'm very fortunate to call maybe a friend. Hopefully, if he ever stumbles across this, he'll consider me a friend as well. But Dave Spalding, I definitely consider a mentor. We've had him, I want to say 5, 6, maybe even 7 times for classes. So I've taken pretty much all of his classes when we would host. And I was taking one of the classes with him, and I had kind of this dedicated training belt that wasn't the same as what my daily carry was. And when I started to train with it, I realized that it was really good for like static stuff. But as soon as we started to move, as soon as we started to do anything kind of dynamic that required any sort of action, the belt kind of sucked. And then I was also thinking, well, why am I using this belt when that's not what I use on the road? It's not a, level 3 duty holster. And that was kind of a big moment for me where it's like, man, everybody says train like you play, but I was not practicing what I was preaching. So I had a separate training rig. Now, I still have a separate training rig now, mainly because of politics. I can't use my city stuff on my own private stuff, but my training rig exactly mimics my work rig. So for example, my training holster is a level 3 Safariland holster, the exact same one that I have at work, except for the work one's basket weave, but I train like I play. And that was a good moment for me. I've also had the opportunity to train with a few other great trainers, and it definitely causes you to think about, okay, this drill really reinforces those what ifs, low light, things like that. Even my training now with 88, and yeah, shameless plug, I do work for 88, but their high threat CQB classes that I've been exposed to, their high threat vehicle class is absolutely amazing. And that was one of those things where immediately you started to think about how you approach vehicles and covers and corners and objects. And I could take all of that and immediately apply it to real world of work, as Dave Spalding would put it. But definitely, I like the doctrine of 88 stuff. So I'm really, really honored and humbled to be a part of 88 because there are such good dudes on the training cadre that I'm just happy to be a part of because I learned from them. I really enjoy that. So that's kind of some moments for me. All right, these last ones are from Kevin. Kevin, you asked a lot of questions. I'm going to kind of abbreviate just so the episode's not super, super long, and this is our last one. But you had one question about how do I organize all of my parts? How do I organize all of my tools, things like that? And basically, in the regular QA episodes, you can see my toolbox that's usually over my shoulder there. I have all sorts of drawers and things that I organize my tools with. And then inside some of those drawers, I have like fishing tackle boxes that you can get at like a big box store, but they hold like tackle and things like that. And I will organize gauges, I will organize small tools, parts, and I can stack those and kind of put them in the drawer. So that's how I personally do it. And then over to where my milling machine is and stuff, I just have, again, those same kind of bins. And I'll keep end mills, drill bits, center drills, whatever it might be. And I have a shelf with like cutting fluids and that kind of stuff. One question is on red dot training. And you've talked about, should you remove the sights? Should you modify the Glock grip angle, dedicated cool fire IR lasers, or cert scars? Now, this is the cert that I use. Now, while it does not have sights, I will be adding a sight to it just because it's fine. I don't think you need to remove sights. Okay, when I teach red dot, we don't even talk about the sights until day 2, and that's mostly for a transition thing. Because when we're teaching acquisition of the dot, I'm not teaching them to look for the sights as a crutch. I'm teaching to look for the dot. So then your question is, well, should they be removed in order to make finding the dot easier? I don't think they need to be removed. I haven't had a student come to a class yet who had struggled finding the dot where I think removing the sights would have helped them. It's just all about, kind of building good, proper presentation and aiming leading to the delivery of rounds, which is kind of a process that I use, which is more detailed than that, obviously. But I don't think they need to be removed. You can certainly tape them if you felt like you had someone struggling, something like that. As far as the Glock grip angle, modifying it, honestly, with a good aggressive grip, I think the Glock still presents just fine. Do I prefer my staccato? Yep, I do. And I'm very honored and humbled to be shooting a staccato now. But I don't think you necessarily need to change the Glock grip angle. I think with a good grip, it can present just fine. And you've seen me in numerous videos shoot a Glock with good presentations that I feel are solid, and I haven't had to modify my grip angle, so I don't think that's needed. Now, obviously, if you have dedicated training tools, that's all going to help because it's all about good, proper practice of a proper presentation to get that. So hopefully that answers the question. And again, Kevin, I do appreciate the comments and the questions, but guys, they are like, like 3 paragraphs or whatever. So if I read it, it would take a long time. So I'm trying to be respectful to all of the viewers as well. All right. Fail to extract scars was another question. As far as one method that's out there with a fail to extract, or a lot of people call it a double feed, is we don't need to fully, let me rephrase that, we don't need to lock the slide back before removing the magazine. We identify it, we can just pull the mag, insert, and rack. It is a quicker method, and it will work in certain stoppages. However, Kevin was saying that certain guns, or if there's too much tension, you're not going to be able to rip the magazine because there's too much tension. So you do need to lock the slide. And honestly, I think that deserves its own video because also even with other guns, that partial pull and reinsert does not work. The staccato being one of them. If you pull and insert, when you pull that mag, it's going to strip around, and that round is now going to be floating in the mag well. So it has to be a full strip. That mag, or excuse me, that single round drops, and then you could insert and fix the stoppage. But I do think fail to extract needs to be its own video, so that's a great idea. Red dot parallax. He was asking about the parallax of a red dot and how some people say, oh, that doesn't have any. Well, it does. Every red dot has some parallax. And why aren't instructors talking about it? I think a lot of instructors don't understand what it is, but on the other hand, I don't think it's as big of a deal as other people make it out to be. So then your question about as far as like zeroing and things like that, yeah, I get it. Let me just pull up your question here. This false information makes it so much more difficult. And then we talk about shooting consistently at 10, 25, 50 yards. So I go over it in my class a little bit. I don't make a ton of time with it because I think sometimes people overthink it and that can make things more difficult. However, what I will tell people is it is always best to try to have the dot relatively in the center of the window. Kind of think of it as a donut, and you want the dot in the hole of the donut. Same thing as you would a reticle or a red dot on a rifle red dot. We want that dot to be in kind of the best spot, if you will. So we have a good presentation. The dot's in the center of the window or the center of the tube, and then we don't have to worry about it as much. It's not going to be as distorted. But I do another drill where I kind of talk about parallax and distortion and alternate sight pictures and stuff. I call that around the world drill. So, and I basically took it from the rifle side, so we kind of go around. But that's a whole nother topic too. And then last question is, what do I think of Aimpoint's special target, which is kind of this thing right there, if you guys can see that. It's fine, I suppose. Yeah, the amount of wasted time due to setting in issues at step 0 for a successful class could be much reduced. I totally agree. I wish everybody had a 0 and it took, real quick, but that's not always how it goes. So here's the thing. I don't have anything against that target or anybody else. I designed a very simple target. My standard is if we can try to keep our rounds within 1 inch at 10 yards, and then I have little boxes around it that represent a certain number of clicks. So therefore, if you're like 2 lines, it's 10 clicks to get you up here. If you're 3 lines, it'd be 15. And I did the math, and it's for a 1 MOA correction at 10 yards, which is most of the optics on the market. Yeah, so that's a pretty basic target. You shoot it, hopefully you get all your rounds within that 1 inch square. Now, some shooters, they're going to be happy with all their rounds within a 2 inch square. But then there's going to be other people that are like, oh, nope, those 3 rounds that are touching, that's perfect. That 4th one I shanked, so I'm going to make the correction off the 3 because they realize they can self-diagnose. So I try to keep all my rounds touching at 10 yards. Try to get them in that 1 inch square, and then I can make my zeros and things like off that. So that's, yeah, otherwise I prefer my target. It just works. It's what's printed on mine. All right, so that is our questions for this episode. We did, like I said, have 8. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rules up real quick. And basically, it is no crying or whining or fussing or mussing. This is a free show after all. And let me go ahead and pull up our random number. And it is going to be number 5, which is, let's see who number 5 was. Number 5 is going to be Nick. So Nick, we will be in touch. We'll go ahead and get you a prize. Again, if you guys want to see your question on the show, the best way is to email us. That email address is shown below. That is theqa@gunsandtactics.com. If you aren't following us on social media, please do so. And again, we're going to have nifty 50 updates. We're going to be having multiple prizes. We're going to have cool stuff to give away for the 50th episode of the QA. And again, we're going to try to broadcast it live. So the other feedback I need from you is if you want it live on YouTube or Facebook, what's easier for you to watch live? Hopefully, maybe I can even do both at the same time. So that being said, I do appreciate your time. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.
We work really hard to make content that we hope you as a shooter would enjoy. Subscribe to our channel, check out our featured videos and playlists, and if you have a question firearms related, go ahead and send an email to the address shown on the screen to be entered into our monthly QA series.